Good afternoon. The next company we're going to hear from at the NWR presentation will be Oakdale Resources. Oakdale is an ASX-listed precious metals and explorer and aspiring producer. The company has recently acquired a company that has 3 gold projects in Nevada in the US. It also has a Peruvian subsidiary with a gold plant in Peru. And as well, it has just recently acquired a project of a company called Crown, which has projects adjoining the Julimar PGE discovery in WA. So today we're going to have a presentation delivered by Tony Greenaway. Tony is the GM of exploration and geology for Oakdale. And so we look forward to having an update on the company from Tony. Tony, over to you.
Thanks very much, Mark. It's good to be here and be able to give everyone a bit of an update on what we're doing. So just starting off, that photo there's just taken just earlier this week. Actually, it's our guys out at our Gibraltar project in South Australia that I'll be talking to just in a little while, but just a very recent photo of the guys in action out there. So just the standard disclaimer that people can read through in their own time. Okay, so just as a bit of a summary, as you said, Mark, there we've got a number of projects here in Australia, over in the US and indeed down in Peru as well. So here in Australia, we have our Gibraltar project in South Australia, excuse me, with that, which is a Kaolin Halloysite project that we're just finished drilling, and that's adjacent to Andromeda's Mount Hope Kaolin project there. We also have the Crown PGE-Nickel copper project here in WA, that is just adjacent to Chalice's Julimar project. Over in the States, in Nevada, we have 3 projects: Lambarson Canyon, Douglas Canyon, and Tonopah North. And down in Peru, we have a gold processing plant that we have down there, and that's looking at a toll milling operation. So I'll step through all of those just briefly today. So just starting off with Gibraltar, you know, we are literally out there doing work, or we're out there ourselves yesterday. Things with South Australia shutting down, we've got our team back home, which is great. But we did manage to finish a drilling program there, which is fantastic. So the project is out on the Eyre Peninsula there. You can see the tenements in green, with the main Gibraltar tenement there sort of shaded a darker green colour there. It's just adjacent to the north of Andromeda's Mount Hope Kaolin project, and that's in orange there. So as I said, we've been out there drilling last week and earlier this week. I'm currently in isolation, having got back on Monday from that project, so it was good to get out there and see the guys working and getting on with the job out there. So why are we there? Back in 2007, Monax did some shallow auger work across the middle of the tenement there, and you can see that blue star. And in that work, they were looking for other minerals, but in that work, what they found was a fairly clear layer of basement clay minerals or clay development there across the granite basement that's across this area. And digging through the reports from Monax, what I found was there's a mention of some kaolinite and some halloysite in some spectral analysis that they did out there, and that certainly piqued our interest with Andromeda operating in the area. And interestingly enough, that occurrence sits on a fairly weak magnetic trend that can be traced all the way to the south down into Andromeda's tenements there, but we're not too sure exactly what the significance of that trend is just yet. So we went out there, based on those results, we went out there to do some drilling, and that got started earlier, or last week and earlier this week. We wanted to do some air core drilling over the project to basically look at trying to replicate those initial results, just confirm the kaolin and the halloysite out there, as well as look at the extent of that if we did indeed find some. So we went out and drilled 59 holes, just over 2,000 metres of shallow air core, based on a 100 by 100 metre grid, and you can see that in the northern part of that block of drilling there, and that's right over the top of where that historic Monax drilling was. And we widened out that space into about 200 metres to the south, just to do some scout lines to have a look at what was down in that part of the world. And as I said, the objective there was really to define that kaolin halloysite occurrence, And assuming we get some favourable results from our test work, we'll look to move to a JORC resource on that drilling fairly quickly. Just another photo of the guys in action out there. This is actually down the southern part, that photo, one of the southern lines that we drilled out there. So what we found in the drilling, and we don't have results back from analysis yet, but in the logging, what we saw in that northern part was we had good development of that clay basement material. So good depths to solid rock there, and a good blanket of kaolin and clay minerals developed fairly close to surface. There is a cap of calcrete in this area. It's about 2 or 3 metres thick, but nothing to worry about really. And below that, we get into this clay material. We took actually a spectral an analyzer out into the field with us and zapped some of the samples from that 100 by 100 metre area. And what that confirmed was that we do indeed have kaolin in those clays, as well as halloysite, which is very encouraging for us. Now that spectral work is not definitive by any means. We do have to put our samples in to get those analysed at the lab, and that's underway at the moment. But that's certainly very encouraging that we did get that result from the spectral work. Drilling down to the southern area, we saw basement coming up a fair bit, so the development of the clay was a lot thinner down through that area. Certainly there was clay there, but it's certainly less consistent to the north that we saw in that northern area. So we've gone ahead and taken a whole swag of composite samples, and they are off with the lab. We managed to get those back to Adelaide just last night or yesterday before the lockdown in South Australia, which is great. So those samples will go off to have some fairly extensive test work done on them, and that's taking in a number of different groups. So we're doing XRD through CSIRO in Adelaide. We're doing brightness testing through the University of South Australia. And then we're doing more spectral and XRF analysis at the laboratory. So it's quite involved. But that'll give us a definitive result for what we're actually looking at there with that work. So we're expecting those results to come back in about 3 to 4 weeks, but obviously that's dependent upon the current lockdowns and travel restrictions in South Australia at the moment. We will plan some additional drilling to follow up this based on those results. We'll probably look to go further north where we saw that consistent development of the clay blanket and move further north from where we started there. Okay, so moving on to Nevada. We have 3 projects in Nevada, the Lambarson Canyon project, the Douglas Canyon project, and Tonopah North. So why are we, why are we in Nevada? Well, it's rated the 3rd best mining district in the world. 74% of gold produced in the US comes from this jurisdiction. In 2018, they produced over 5 million ounces of gold. So that certainly, sets it aside. It's the 6th largest world producing, nation in the globe. So it's a good place to be operating. And you can see there's a number of trends that are highlighted on that map there: the Gertrude trend, Kaolin trend, Cortez, and the Walker Lane. And these are basically alignments of major gold deposits, and you can see some of those deposits there. These are multi-million ounce, huge gold deposits. So it's elephant country that we're exploring in here, and certainly a good place to be operating. There's high quality infrastructure in the area and a very skilled workforce. So again, this is an established mining district, a very good place to operate. Our exploration leader has, for Nevada, has got a lot of experience in this part of the world, and they in fact led the exploration team that discovered the Long Canyon deposit, which is 1.3 million ounces of gold. So just looking at Lambarson Canyon, we've been drilling out there very recently. We've announced some results on that project that I'll get to very shortly, and we've just finished up our last hole out there. So this project is up in the northern part of Nevada. As you can see, they're surrounded by, again, these multi-million ounce deposits. It's about 100 kilometres to the south of Winnemucca, which is the closest little town, and we use that as our base. And the geology on the project area has got similarities with the Lone Tree mine, which is 4 million ounces, and Trenton Canyon, which is 4.5 million ounces. So again, these are big deposits that we're chasing out here, large, lower grade, but lots of ounces in these deposits. So we did 2 diamond holes out here. This is the tenement itself. So this project was basically found or pegged on the back of a geochemical anomaly that the guys traced up the hills and did some outcrop channel sampling and took some rock chip float samples there. And you can see the results from those: 61 grams gold in a float sample and 3 meters at 6.97 in an outcrop channel sample. So we've basically planned two drill holes in this area. One of them was targeting that outcropping mineralisation, and a second hole to the south targeting a geophysical anomaly that was showing through two geophysical IP lines that we did out there. So that first hole we've drilled and we've announced results from that. So it went to about 250 meters in depth. All the way down that hole, we got alteration and very deep weathering with anomalous gold or elevated gold all the way through that hole. And right down at the very bottom, we got a metre or just over a metre at 3.15 grams per tonne gold. And that was hosted in an epithermal quartz vein. So that's primary mineralisation. That's really encouraging for us. These are the first holes, well, that was the very first hole that has been put into this area. So to get a good gold hit at 3.5 grams or 3.1 grams is very encouraging. The alteration system that we're in there is very large. And we're doing some initial test work on that hole to look at lithogeochemical fingerprinting of that mineralising system, just so that we can see where we are within the epithermal system that we've encountered there. The second hole that we put in was just to the south, targeting that geophysical anomaly there, and you can see that that hole's now been finished. The photo that you can see there is of the project itself, and that was the guys demobilising from site. Obviously, winter has set in there. So we're lucky to have that hole finished before the onset of the full-blown winter and the snow coming through there. So that second drill hole again encountered really where highly weathered rocks. They're mostly porphyries with disseminated sulfides through them. That hole hasn't been assayed yet. Those samples are off at the lab being processed, and we expect to get results back from those in the coming weeks. But again, the caveat on that is with COVID fairly rampant over in the US at the moment, we're hoping to have those back in the next sort of few weeks. Additional drilling, we're planning on some more drilling out there. As I said, we're really encouraged by the result in the first hole to get that primary mineralisation there. And this is, as I said, a very large alteration system that we're drilling into. So once we've done our modelling, we'll have a bit of a look at exactly where we are within the system and then plan further holes accordingly. Moving down to Douglas Canyon, this project, we're hoping to get this one drilled as well this season, but obviously with winter coming in, we're going to delay this drilling now until spring. So this will be the first cab off the rank in the new year. What we're targeting out here are a number of structural zones, and you can see those in red that we've been able to map there. And within those structures, there are quartz veins developed through those, and outcrop sampling of those. You can see the results that we did earlier this year. 16 grams per tonne gold and 495 grams per tonne silver, 14 grams gold, 423 silver, 15.6 gold, 18 grams per tonne gold. So these are very high grade gold veins, excuse me, developed in these shear zones. And we'll be chasing those with 2 diamond holes, and you can see the positioning of those on the map there. So they're ready to go. This is all permitted. The drill platforms are in place. And what we're targeting there are these high-grade ore shoots up to 200 to 300 metres long is what we're thinking we might get there. And again, the grades that we're seeing there around that 10 to 12 grams per tonne is what our exploration target is there. So as I said, this project is fully permitted, ready to go, and this will be the first cab off the rank that we crank up in the new year. Okay, moving back to Australia and our Crown project. That's a photo overlooking the project area just here in WA. So it's about 45 kilometres north of Perth in the Chittering Valley. And the project is covering greenstones and that are prospective, we think, for nickel, copper and PGE mineralisation. It's very similar to, rocks are very similar to Chalice's Gonaville or the Julimar project, which you can see is about 9 kilometres to the east of us there. So basement here is poorly explored. It was mapped previously as mostly granite, which is obviously incorrect. So there's not been a great deal of work being done out here. So we're looking to get in and get on the ground. This is still an application, so the tenement hasn't been granted yet. We expect that to happen very soon, but we're doing a swag of precursory work to get us on the ground as quickly as we can. So some of that work there has been reprocessing of the geophysical data that's available, and you can see that new imagery that we've generated there. So what that's highlighted is a number of magnetic trends that you can see circled there, and these look very similar to what Chalice is chasing over at Julimar. We have done some reconnaissance mapping where we can get on the ground, and we've confirmed that those trends do correlate with ultramafic rocks, again similar to what they're seeing over at Julimar. So we've currently got a detailed structural and geological interpretation underway that's being done by Southern Geoscience, and we're hoping to have that done in the next sort of couple of weeks, and that'll give us again a bit more information as to where we need to go into first, targeting our on-ground exploration, and that will be detailed mapping. We'll do some reconnaissance sampling and then systematic soil sampling over those target areas. Follow that up with drilling for any anomalies that we generate from that work. Okay, moving over to Peru, in the Julimar Gold, the gold processing operation. This is a gold plant that the company purchased. It's located in the southern part of Peru. You can see it's about 660 kilometres to the southeast of Lima there, about 40 kilometres from the coast. And this area is prolific with epithermal gold veins. There are a large number of small private operators mining these gold veins that are up to 14 grams per tonne gold they're getting out of these things, but they don't have process facilities. So the idea here is that this is a project that is a process facility where we did look at mine gate sale for those operators. Obviously, with COVID again impacting on Peru, they're getting a significant number of cases daily over there. So the project is currently on hold for the safety of our team over there. But this is a priority for us to get this going as soon as we can once things settle down. We're also looking at a number of projects in our own right out there for feed for the plant that we have purchased over in that part of the world. Again, this is a photo of the plant that we've purchased there. So this is a cash flow prospect for us. So we purchased the plant for near-term cash flow. We're looking at upgrading that plant. It's a low capex to take that to 120 tonne per day and then scaling that further to 200 tonne per day. And as I said, really the model here is that we're looking to act as a processing facility for the small operators in and around that area. As I said, there are literally thousands of small operators there mining these epithermal gold veins, and there's nowhere for them to take their ore at the moment. So once we get this one up and running, the longer term plan for us is to have a number of these operations over there. Given the scale of the small scale mining through there, there's plenty of ore to be had, and as I said, we're actually looking at our own projects over there to bring ore into the system in our own right. Okay, so just very quickly, just to finish off, just the company metrics there. You can see we have a market cap today of about 32 million at that share price of 2 cents, 1.6 billion shares on issue, so lots of liquidity in the stock there. Looking at our peers, Chalice Gold Mines are a market cap of $1 billion, just adjacent to us there for our Crown project, Andromeda, who are adjacent to our Gibraltar project there, $520 million. So we are quite cheap at the moment, with lots of liquidity in the stock, and with $2 billion cash on hand, we're well funded to take all of our projects forward. So I think that's about it. So yeah, thanks very much for that. If there's any questions, more than happy to take those, Mark.
Sure, Tony. Thanks very much for the update. The Oakdale recently completed a fairly heavily oversubscribed placement. What do you put down the increased investor interest to?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, we have been very active in what we're doing. Over the last sort of few months, we've been busy drilling in Nevada, which has again given us some really encouraging results over there with that 3 grams per tonne of primary mineralisation there. We've also been active here in South Australia, really sort of charging forward with our Gibraltar project. That one we've been able to get up and get drilling very quickly. So we're very active. We're doing lots of work on the ground and getting some good results from that. So there has been a lot of activity going on, and I think that's reflected in the interest in our stock at the moment.
Thanks for that, Tony. The companies, you've got gold assets in the US, you've got the Halloysite and Kaolin in South Australia, and now you're near Julimar in WA. How are you finding the balance, both with sort of the potentially limited resources in cash, with say 2 million cash, and actually managing those quite disparate programs that you have?
Yeah, sure. Look, it's certainly a challenge. I'm not going to lie. It's and even more so with the restrictions on COVID and not being able to travel. Normally, we would have people on the ground, or myself over in Nevada during the drilling program. Thankfully, I was able to get over to South Australia and sneak back across the border before things closed again on Monday night. But look, it is not easy. But thankfully, we've got some really good people on the ground. We've as I said, Nevada is a well-established mining area, and there are some really good contractors over there. So given we weren't able to travel ourselves to get over there to manage that program, we managed to find a really good geologist over there who's done a great job for us managing that project and keeping that going. Similarly, in Peru, we've got people on the ground over there that are currently hunkered down with COVID. But we're a lean operation. We operate very tight, and means I've got to scramble a lot. But we've got some really good people on the ground, and equally in South Australia, we had a good team of geos and fieldies over there. As I said, thankfully I was able to get across there to touch base with them. To Adrian and the guys are doing a great job out over there, getting that work done and getting back to South Australia again, or getting back home before things close down on Monday. So look, it's challenging. But it certainly is more than doable, and the team that we have in place in the various locations all work really well together.
Sure. I mean, with given the success that you're having in the US, in Nevada at the moment, how are you finding sort of the COVID situation there, given what's happening there?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting question. It hasn't really impacted us too much. Nevada, we are very isolated out where we are. Winnemucca is just a small town. It's about, and there's not a huge population there. So whilst it's always at the forefront of your mind, keeping the team safe and making sure that we've got the right precautions in place. At Winnemucca itself, there is no reported cases, as I'm aware of, in Nevada there, or in Winnemucca per se. So the team has been very careful with how they operate. So really we haven't seen too much impact at all. I think our laboratory is up in Reno, and I think they may well be finding or having a bit more of an impact with more workers through there, which is slowing our processing down a little bit. But things are still ticking away over there, and in the most part, things haven't really impacted what we're doing. So touch wood, things carry on that way, and we can kick off again down at Douglas Canyon in the new year.
Very good, Tony. Thanks very much, and appreciated having the update on Oakdale Resources. Thank you.
Thanks very much.